Hey, marketers, live streamers, podcasters, thanks for joining me for this episode of the Going Live with Christoph Trapp podcast. This is the companion piece to the book with the same title, now available on Amazon and AuthenticStorytelling.net. Let's get into today's topic. Hey, how's everyone doing? Christoph Trapp here, your host and author of the new book. It's coming out before we know it, middle March here. I'm trying to put me on the book on screen. Let's see if we can figure that out, my friends. We are live on all the different channels. Make sure you're following. If you are on Amazon Live, we do have a little bit of a giveaway happening later this week. Friday, I believe, Friday at noon Central Time. So please join me then. If you're listening on the podcast channels, that's bit.ly, bit.ly/ctrap. Please feel free to follow me there and send me a screenshot, ctrap@gmail.com to get the book, to get the gift card, to win the gift card. There's going to be three, $9.99, $9.99, so you can buy the book with that. Hopefully you'll do that. So episode 3, yesterday we had Max Brandstetter on the show, one of the contributors. Really appreciate Max. Fantastic podcasting expert, and I really appreciate him sharing all the knowledge that he has shared with me over the years. But today we want to talk about, today we want to talk about how to get started. So let's dive into that. The first thing I want to mention really quickly is that doing a live stream, doing a podcast, it has never, ever been easier. I mean it. You can start a podcast in minutes. Now, will you know all the different things? Haven't done it? Maybe not. But it's easier than ever. It used to be so difficult. You have to do everything manually. You still have to do some of that. You still have to submit your show to different areas, to different channels. There's so many channels now. I think there's 20 different channels that my business storytelling podcast is not totally automatic, but it is to an extent. So for example, I'm live streaming here. I'm going live here. I got the microphone right here. I got the iPad in front of me. And on my iPad, I produced the whole show using Switcher Studio. Switcher Studio then sends the signal to Restream, and then Restream pushes it to LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and then also Amazon. And then I have Amazon Live on my phone right here. And basically, I can see what people are saying there. So it's a little hard to keep track of all the comments, if there are any. But you saw that when I did a show with Rob Sand. He's the auditor of the state of Iowa. He couldn't see the comments, and he acknowledged that too. But so how do you get started? Keep in mind the technology is getting easier and easier. Pretty much anyone can now start a new audio podcast in moments. Video podcasts are currently only available to specific influencers on Spotify. So that's not, I'm not even sure that's a thing on some other channels. Spotify has them, but only to specific influencers. At some point, I'm sure it's going to be opened up to more and more people. It's going to be available in more places. So that's another reason why live streaming with video on is something that's worth doing, and that can be helpful. So what that means is, let's assume video podcast stream. And honestly, I mean, we already have video podcasts, right? Because you can watch, like some of you watch my show on YouTube. And that's a video podcast. It's not on a podcast channel, but it's already available. So just something to keep in mind, that if you do a live stream and then you repurpose it as a podcast, that actually future-proofs your show, because then you have all that content available. Now, how that technically works or how soon they're going to do it, I don't know, but why not do that? I mean, I do it, and I think it's fantastic. Live streams can be started by anyone with a phone, an internet connection, and something to say or to show. And so, of course, that's highly debatable. You know, what's something worth showing? What's something worth saying? If you've seen my stream earlier today, every day when I run my vacuum cleaner, my robot vacuum cleaner, I literally just live stream that. I put the camera on top of the phone and not the phone, the vacuum cleaner, and basically people watch it. You know, there's thousands of people that watch that on Amazon. Let me see if I can show this to you quickly here on screen. So there's the picture, preview live. So that's actually the live stream that I do most days. So every day, what I do is I clean, right? I turn that thing on, and then basically I put the camera on top and I stream that live to Amazon, and people watch. So why do they watch? I don't know. It is kind of mesmerizing, quite frankly. But at the end of the day, my point is, it's not the highest produced show ever, right? And in fact, I'm working. The thing is running wherever, somewhere else in the house. Sometimes it's running in this room if it's time to clean in here. And I'm working here, I'm sitting here, I'm producing a show, I'm writing, you know, whatever it might be. And, you know, so we don't have to overthink it. So just something to think about. You'd be surprised what people watch on the internet. So, of course, some marketers might scream at us. Now we have to do video and audio podcast. That's 2 more channels to add to our already long list. And I hear you. It does have to stop somewhere, but make it part of your overall strategy. You start with this, and then you use that content in all the different channels. And that's really, in my opinion, how you integrate it. So don't have a live stream strategy and a blog strategy and another strategy, and everything has to be their own strategy. Have one integrated strategy and then create different things as part of that strategy to reach your goal. So that's how I would approach that. In addition, I don't think we have to talk about this. I don't think I have to convince you. People are watching videos. Is that still something I have to convince people of, that people watch videos? People like videos better than reading. You know, I still joke when somebody says to me, do you think somebody's going to read this article? I say, I hope so, but most people will skim it. Are people going to watch this video? They go in and they come out. They go in and they come out. And it's like, you know, they do other things too. So it's not just undivided attention. So the race and the competition for undivided attention it's harder and harder, quite frankly. So this is another way to get your humanness as your brand out there to stay relevant. So it just made sense to combine the two, so live streaming and podcasting. And then I use that as my regular podcast and as part of my overall create once, publish everywhere strategy. I'm a big fan of that strategy. Cope, I didn't come up with it. I'm not actually sure who is the godfather, father, or godmother, I guess, of that strategy. But I still believe it works. I still see it working. I mean, I'm using it right here. You know, I'm live streaming a podcast episode number 3, which is also a chapter in the book. I literally have the book up here. It's still being edited as we speak. But, you know, I'm repurposing all the time. In this case, I actually wrote the book. I actually wrote a blog post first, and then I put the blog post in the book, and then I re-massaged the book and whatever. And then now I'm doing the live stream, and then the live stream goes in the podcast, and then there you go. So it's kind of backwards from normally, but who cares? You can do it however you want to. Another couple things that are important when you start your live stream, it's immediate distribution. And I just think that is so fantastic that that's a thing, that helps, because what content can perform? The content that gets out there. And so that's important, because so now this live stream, I'm live, right? There's no doubt in my mind whether it's performing or not. I see people tune in over here on Amazon. I'm not currently monitoring Twitter. So if you are leaving comments on Twitter, my apologies, or LinkedIn, I probably could pull that up and just see if anybody is saying anything. And I don't get a ton of comments, honestly, anyways, but we certainly could do that. Of course, the internet is kind of, at its limits here, quite frankly. So with all these different things going on. All right, let's get back to the chapter of the book here. More immediate distribution, fantastic advantage, really good informational discussion when you have guests on. So, it's not like so generalized, so sterilized how some content ends up being when you share the content on in the written word, right? So nobody can edit what I'm saying right now. I can't edit it until I'm editing by not saying something. I don't want to be heard. I don't want on the live stream, but whether you like me or not, that's like, you'll know, right? So whether you're tuning in or not, you'll know. The other thing to keep in mind is when to get started, make sure you integrate it with your podcast. So I use podpage.com. There's other ways to do it as well. You can set up a landing page for your podcast, podpage.com. We did have the founder on the show before, the Business Storytelling Podcast. So, but basically you go through the list here and you can see what all the networks are. You can add all the networks. I'm sorry, Diane. Diane comments, good for you, on the live stream. Not sure what you were referring to because I'm not sure when I saw that comment, what I was saying at the time. But thank you. So basically, see all the different networks submitted. The ones to focus on in Anchor, there's a bunch automated. The one that's not automated in there is Amazon Music. You want to get on that so you can tell, your personal assistant. I'm not going to say it because then she'll just respond to me to play the podcast. So tie it in with your podcast, the live stream, but every podcast episode, live stream it. It is by far the easiest way to do that. Some experts will tell you to only focus on the highest performing channel. That's not a terrible strategy, but why not try to maximize your output? It's basically automated. If I can stream to all these different channels, why would I only pick one? Makes no sense. Makes no sense, right? How does it make any sense? So for example, let's look at LinkedIn here. So on Amazon, looks like we have a few, and estimated how many we've had. On LinkedIn so far, we have had, I can't tell how many we have had. So on concurrent viewers, sorry guys, on Amazon we got 11. On LinkedIn we have 2. So that probably means on LinkedIn total, I can't tell you how many total that is for some reason. Sometimes it shows it to me. And then Twitter, I can't currently find it for some reason. Hopefully it's streaming at all. Yeah, it's not streaming at all. Ugh. It's frustrating when that happens. I think you got to make it a habit to always reinstall Twitter before you go live. I've noticed that a couple of times now. And we will learn. We learn together. We just have to remember. And I've seen the hiccup in Restream. I'm a Restream fan as well. Basically what you do is you can send it to all these different channels, and Twitter currently seems to have a little. So always uninstall it, reinstall it before you go live. I get it. There's so many things to think about, so many things to worry about. So Diane, thanks for following. Email me and I'll enter you into my gift card giveaway. I can't actually email you my email, ctrap, the Twitter handle, @gmail.com. So I will enter you into the giveaway on Friday. We're going to draw it out of a hat. Probably this one. We'll put all the things in the hat. My Washington hat, football team I've been following. Literally, that's what they're called now for, I don't know, 30 years, I guess. So back to the book, my friends. We're going off on a tangent. That's what happens. The other thing to remember, that replays matter. So as you're getting started, you have to remember that the stuff you talk about is not just in the moment. You have to talk about stuff that's interesting to listen to after the fact. So don't just talk about, in the moment stuff. So I don't even know what that is, because I'm so used to just talking about all these different things. So it's not just in the moment. There's evergreen. It all kind of fits together. So, but keep that in mind. There's a lot of days when my replay numbers. So let's say I got this many people watching live. This many. Can you see it right here? And then I got this many people watching the replay. Amazon Live might be the only one where it's usually the other way around. Amazon Live, we have lots of people watching live, very few people watching on the replay. Sometimes Amazon highlights a show down the road, but not that often. So keep that in mind as you're getting started, as you're planning your show. The replays matter. So it is still okay to acknowledge people leaving comments. So for example, Diane over here on Amazon Live, she followed me, and I do appreciate that. And basically, so you can do that. You can certainly interact with your audience. You can certainly answer their questions. Just acknowledge. So for example, thanks, Dan, for joining our live stream on LinkedIn Live. If they ask a question, read it back and try to answer it. Give them a multitude of where people watch and listen. I also remind everyone that they can listen to all these different channels. So for example, this is publishing as episode number 3 of the podcast, which is now available on more and more channels. But they may not have known that I live stream this thing. They may not have known that that it's available on Amazon. Some people say to me, they didn't even know Amazon has a live streaming platform, or they didn't know it was going to Twitter or whatever it might be. So keep that in mind. That's why it's okay to make some of those references. Also, this is actually from Mark Gavin. He's over at Switcher Studio. And he said, people say, well, I only have 5 viewers, but this content lives out there in perpetuity unless you delete it. People see it as they're perusing your profile, doing searches for different things. The replay is a good thing to keep in mind as you're thinking about your live video strategy. And I totally agree with Mark, how that goes. Jeff Kowalski, who also wrote the last chapter of the book. Thank you, Jeff. Kozlowski. I am not good with names today. Jeff Kozlowski. You have to remember that not everyone is just waiting for you to go live. And that's something to keep in mind, right? People are tuning in, but are they just sitting there waiting? Like, I don't like appointment watching. I don't watch anything on TV live except sports. And even then, if I got to chauffeur my kids around, basically, I record that too. So something to keep about, something to think about, how you do that, how you talk about it. To get started, really the setup to start, always have your strategy ready. What are you going to talk about? Who are you trying to reach? Why are you trying to reach them? What's the point? Just something to think about. What is the topic? What are the topics that you're going to cover? And so, for example, my Going Live show, this one, the podcast, we're talking about live streaming. That's it, right? The business storytelling podcast and live stream, it's a little bit different because we go a little broader. But at the end of the day, you need to know what you're going to talk about. What's the topic? Who cares about it? Who are you talking to? Who's talking about it? Who are the experts? And who's the audience? It's always good to remember. I know I saw one of my fantastic coworkers watching here, or at least liking the post on LinkedIn. And always create personas. Make sure you know who you're trying to reach, and I think it's a rule to have a funny name for personas. I mean, I had car commercial before, for example. in the buildings industry. So something to keep in mind, know who you're talking to and what it's about. Pick the overarching topic. It's not that difficult. See what's already out there. What's interesting to me, I always have people come up to me and say, oh, we're starting a podcast because there's no podcast out there on that topic. We're starting a live stream because there's nothing out there on the topic. There's probably already something out there because there's stuff out there for everything, right? But live streaming in this context, there really wasn't much out there, which prompted me to actually finish the book, and 170 pages almost. Why not? So something to think about. What's your topic? What are you going to talk about? And a little broader is usually better, because if you keep going with that topic, so the Business Storytelling Podcast talks about all kinds of different things, right? And what's interesting about that is it can evolve. And right now, it's still publishing daily for at least the next 3 weeks or so. And then we might switch that to less frequently. But I can evolve it. This show, the Going Live show, at some point, do I still have stuff to talk about? Is this truly something that should be, a weekly show? Or I don't know. Maybe it should. We'll see how the book goes. We'll see how people like it. So far, the feedback has been great. People like the topic, so we'll see. And you can, of course, pre-order. Down below there. For your episodes, make sure you have a rough agenda. Don't overthink it, but have a rough agenda. When I went live with Jeff and Mark, quick overview that I sent to them. Hello, introductions and overview. What are we going to talk about? Why live video matters. So this is a show on live video. How to produce it effectively. Other tips to making being on air easier. How to repurpose it. Summary and wrap. So that whole thing took us about 50 minutes, So it's not like that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points. So 50 minutes, that's, under 10 minutes, like 8 minutes or something like that. So something to think about, if you have an agenda, how much time is allocated for each thing? So if you're going to talk for that long, so for example, I'm doing about 16 pages in the book, and certainly it's a little bit more free flowing than me reading them to you, even though I've read passages so far. How long does it take to talk about 16 pages? I don't know. We're already at 24 minutes. So it's certainly a good amount of time. Don't rush. Make the pause your friend. It is okay to pause. On the podcast, most people will listen at 1.2, 1.5 speed anyways. On this thing, you're people listening to us in the background. So it's not sports radio. Just get through it. And the other thing is, and as you can see, I actually struggle with this a little bit. I want to talk louder, like I'm giving a speech, like you need to hear me. But you don't. That's a 4K camera. This is a really good mic. And, and I don't need to, I don't really need to be screaming. So just something to keep in mind. When Marcus Sheridan, the sales line, came on my Amazon Live, we just chit-chatted for the first few minutes. We weren't just burning time, but we were having a conversation. It was a little bit on a tangent, but it's okay to do that. Don't feel so pressured that you have to, always be on track, always be right there and go from there. But think about who's your podcast talent. Do you want that person? Do you want to brand it with their name? Do you want them to be on the cover? So depending on who it is, something to think about, if it's with a company, your brand, you never know, right? I mean, especially in the US where people seem to switch jobs a lot quicker than, for example, Europe, where I actually grew up. But if you have a person's face on a cover art, you can update it. So it's not that difficult. But Google Podcast takes a while for it to update, sometimes forever and ever and ever. And then you got to change the name. So Going Live, it still has my name on it. The Business Storytelling Podcast doesn't. So if I ever wanted to turn that over to somebody else, I could. I'm not sure who would want it, but that is an option. Marcus Sheridan, who really is a fantastic guy, the sales line, fantastic sales leader and content marketer. He said, just think of it as a conversation. Don't think you're on air. Think of it as a chat with friends. That helps many people become comfortable with the camera after they just said they don't like being on camera. So it's something to keep in mind. I'm not sure I like being on camera, but I don't even think about this as being on camera. I'm sitting here, I don't even have shoes on, I'm sitting here in my office at home, but getting ready to drive the kids around to things. And it's like I'm just talking. I'm just having a chat with you. And so I really appreciate everybody turning in. Who will produce the show? This is actually a big one to think about. I'm doing everything myself. I'm producing it on here on the iPad. Let me show this to you. So I'm producing it on the iPad. And then I'm also the host. I'm the moderator. And I'm also looking at my show notes and the chapters in the book to know what I want to talk about. So that's a lot of work. If you have somebody else who can help you, it would not hurt. I would really consider it. Somebody else who can push the buttons on your team while you're live. They can also monitor the audio. That's kind of hard, honestly, for me. I do keep an eye on the the thing right here, the audio waves, to see if it's coming through. It looks like it's coming through. It looks like we're good. But it's all a lot of work. At the end, after you're done, some podcasts do need some editing. Who's going to do that? So for example, I cut out the beginning and I used the actual audio opening in Anchor, and there's no reason not to do that. I mean, why do I need to, use the one that ran in Switcher? I mean, it sounds pretty similar. And then think about the process. So my process is I live stream through Switcher into Restream. It saves it on both. I usually grab it out of Switcher, and then I put it into the Anchor app, which extracts the audio, and then I edit it there, or I push it live, depending on how things look. Relatively easy process. Once you go live afterwards, especially when you're on with a guest, there's a little bit of a delay because you got a bunch of buttons. So if you unmute, the guest might just leave, which has happened. But if it's just me and I have a guest on right now, I can still talk to them, but it takes a little bit before the live stream ends. So just something to keep in mind. So the workflow is something to kind of consider, to think about. The syndication after your podcast is live is also important. Share your podcast. Think about how you're going to do that. You're going to do audiograms. I don't usually do audiograms too much. I just share the link over and over and over. And that's how I do it. Sometimes audiograms are better because they're more visual. We'll talk about that. I think we talk about that in the book a little bit. But afterwards, reshare it. Always do it natively. So if you're already on LinkedIn, don't share the Twitter video to LinkedIn. Don't share the YouTube video to LinkedIn. Share the LinkedIn video on LinkedIn. Reshare it or whatever. But yeah, do that. And then I use Anchor for the podcast version. How to sign up for Anchor is super easy. You just head over there, sign up, and then go from there. So tomorrow, we're going to dive into episode, I don't know if it's tomorrow, but the next one, we're diving into episode number 4. And we're talking about how to dress on lives. So we'll pick it up there. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. Really appreciate you. If you have not pre-ordered the book, please consider doing that. Really appreciate that. And join me on Friday. 3 Amazon gift cards. I'll be giving them away. Hope to see you then. Until then, or next time, if I come back before. I'm Christoph.